comp, pound for pound, nameplates off.
All right, difficult one maybe for Wales just because of the team they're playing against, but I don't think they've harmed themselves so far in the draft. Potential to make things happen for themselves, especially early. We'll see whether they have a chance, as it's going to be Carrick's and Yolway leading us into the horizon of our final round robin of games here in the VCS Week 7, right before we kick off into playoffs. Gentlemen, have fun with this one.
Oh, we will, Rebel. You know we will. And now Yulway. Finally, we get to cast GAM. I haven't get to cast him, and I'm so excited to see my favourite jungler Levi on a high or Cardi on a really mechanical... Well, Style must be playing... Oh. Yulway, they've picked the easiest comp in the world.
I mean, sometimes that's all you need to have. Yesterday they picked Morgana into Vi. Today they pick Vi and ban away the Morgana. So they seem to be very focused on this pick, and they also seem to be focused on invading the bot side jungle. Early information scouted potentially with this ward. So interesting little start for GAM, trying to play around the bot side, maybe trying to split the jungle a little bit more as well. But on the other side, Wales also has a little bit of a scouting ward on the top side. So both of these teams should be completely aware of the jungle pathing in the early game.
The funny thing is obviously getting the confirmation on the jungle pathing is important. But if you had told me, hey, one team has an Ornn, the other has a Renekton, I'd be, okay, so the Renekton team is pathing to top and the Ornn team is pathing to bot, right? Yeah, 100% of the time.
Well,
so I don't know how much information those wards really gained.
Very true. The interesting thing about Renekton right now is, our Beast also mentioned a little bit, is he is not quite the same champion as before. You don't really play towards Renekton too hard, especially into the Ornn matchup. We've seen him just go even in lane, and it's not even that detrimental. A year ago, oh yeah, this shouldn't really amount to much. A year ago, if you saw an Ornn go even with Renekton, everyone would just ring alarm bells like ding ding ding, this game is over, Renekton can't do anything. But now with the Blade into tank build and so on, he's actually quite strong late on. B is getting very aggressive here.
He really is.
Not
Got
sure
a little bit screwed over with how the terrain interacted with the hook there, so ends up taking the worst end of that trade. But keeping pressure on the Zeri is always good, allowing Style to spam out those boomerang blades.
And Kiaya, for the longest part, wasn't allowed, no, he actually really didn't want to play Ornn. Hankei came on and said over and over again that he loves Ornn, he wants his top lane to play Ornn, but then Kiaya just kept picking Aatrox into Ornn instead. Actually made it work most of the time, but now he must have accepted Ornn supremacy, at least from his coaching word, because yeah, he's playing the Ornn more and more now. And of course, with Kiaya's season being a little bit more quiet, he had a very strong second half, but he's still not as lane dominant as he used to be. Well, Ornn just fits the bill perfectly. This team is now a late game team fighting team, and Ornn provides everything you want, engaged, scaling, you name it. It's just an Ornn in the late game.
And before we went live, we might have a play coming in here, so I'll save this just for a moment. B, is he going to flash over this wall? This would be so bold. Killer Queen is close, though, so this could go really wrong for GAM if they don't execute this perfectly. Glory gets Rune Prison. Blocking the hook is Killer Queen, but it's not going to be quite enough. First Blood will go over regardless, and GAM are just so coordinated.
And Team Wales still has absolutely no idea how to deal with the MVP, or at least the best support in the league. B, he came back actually, week 4, in the match against Team Wales. GAM lost the first game with Elio in. Not that Elio played badly, but then B came back and they stomped the next 2 games, and ever since, they haven't lost the series. So, GAM with B is a completely different beast. Beast also mentioned. Healthy B is like 22-0 or something on the year. Yeah. And here he goes again. Early roam. Killer Queen actually, the hero play almost saves his mid laner. Really nicely done. W's into B's hook, but it's still not enough to save the mid lane. And now Glory down a teleport. Fortunately still sitting on his flash, but this is already starting off very nicely for GAM.
It certainly is. And what I was going to get to beforehand, and it's appropriate that we're looking at the bot lane, is before we went live, we were having a spirited discussion about Zeri, is the way I'm going to phrase it. And one of the things that I said, and I think you agreed with, is one of the problems with Zeri is that this game, League of Legends, does not have a huge amount of point-and-click CC anymore. Well, good news. GAM picked all of it.
So the thing is, watching a lot of Zeri games, I'm actually not the biggest fan of Nautilus into Zeri for various reasons. The ultimate of Nautilus is just a little bit too slow in the late game, in my opinion, to really threaten Zeri. What it does is delay the fight and buy time for your team, because Zeri has to disengage. It doesn't really provide enough lockdown to kill the Zeri, but it basically holds her accountable. We also have Vi.
On top of the Vi,
yeah.
That Vi is the big one.
And for me, actually,
Vi
Rise
into a rune prison.
Yeah, exactly. Rise is the really big one for me, because both Vi and Nautilus have point-and-click CC, but it takes a while to actually get there. Rise is instant, and that is the huge difference maker. As GAM has a little bit of information here with Killer Queen killing the ward. He actually gave himself away. There was a pink ward. You don't have to kill the ward. Actually, killing the ward alerts the enemy to your presence. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with his choice here to kill the ward instead of going for the gank, but they were in a pretty safe spot anyway. And everyone is just skirmishing around the map, but no big action points so far.
Yeah, I mean, both ADCs have picked up culls. It's a Zeri versus Sivir matchup. At this point, we are fairly familiar with it. These ADCs don't want to fight. They just want to play it slow. Up in the top lane, Kiaya uses his ult to clear a wave out. You can see he was very low on mana. Needs to find a reset, but should be able to.
Oh, here we go again.
Here we go again. Here comes Vi. Chooses not to, just moves back away.
Probably smartly so, because ultimate available for Glory. A little bit too risky with his flash up as well. It's a little too dicey. You don't really know where Killer Queen is either, so wise choice from Levi here to not go for it. I think if he had ultimate, he could have probably locked him down for long enough to secure the kill. But in this case, Levi not quite as aggressive as some of the other junglers anymore on the VCS. And a very smart jungler, especially in the second half of the split, so he doesn't actually go for these crazy plays. He doesn't need to. His team is good enough, he can just wait and supply the CC and team fighting potential later on. So a smart choice from Levi, and also something a lot of older viewers will not expect to see from GAM: restraint. This team is now very much geared towards the late game, and a very smart team that just plays to optimize and win everything in the late game.
And your way, this might be something that, maybe I'm sucking up to one of my favorite personalities in the scene. But I will say, on the topic of the restraint, I think GAM is just one of the better coached teams now. And I think you can see that in the way they play, in the way that their picks have changed. This is not a GAM composition. A Vi, an Ornn, not very GAM. And I think we really are seeing the impact of people like Jackie Wind, like Hanke. And the reason I bring it up is that it bodes really well for Worlds. Because I think where minor regions, the VCS in particular, have fallen down at Worlds beforehand is coaching.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about this.
2019 GAM.
I feel like
I'm looking
sometimes...
at 2019 GAM.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to just have one style and be optimized on this style instead of trying to play global meta when you're probably not as good as some of the other teams. But then again, maybe you are good enough to actually contest them. So it's always... It's a fine line to tread. We have to see what actually is going to happen once they meet international opponents. Yeah, he's fine. Good handshake. This is a very slow game so far. GAM playing towards bot side, towards scaling. And now Levi wants some action. When CBL gets level 6, this could be really, really dangerous to dive here. But he's not quite able to get to level 6, so they just evacuate the vicinity. Smart choice from Wales. Wales also showing a decent amount of restraint on their side. The problem is, the enemy team has Ornn and Sivir and Dry, so you might be a little bit pressed.
You have Zeri.
True. You do have Zeri, but it's not like the enemy team doesn't scale or doesn't team fight, so it's a little bit scary here, and I would like to see some action supplied by Killer Queen to try and get an advantage, maybe for Variety, who has had a little glow up the second half of the split, much better performances. We were flaming him all the time, and I think justifiably so, for the first half of the split, where Wales was basically just Killer Queen and Glory, try to get it over the line, everyone else is inting, but now Nagi has stepped up, Variety's playing much better, so the team is actually coming together in a way that makes them a contender for playoffs.
I will just say, we didn't comment on it, Killer Queen did pick up the Rift Herald, so, maybe not kills in terms of, not action in terms of kills, I should say, but still objectives going over to Wales, they're keeping themselves relevant in this game. Which is always good to see. They are the heavy underdogs here. We can't really oversell that. But still, just kind of waiting for who wants to pull the trigger first.
And this Rift Herald could go into a little bit of action if they try to, for example, dive top lane into Rift Herald spawn to really get a huge advantage out of this. You can always just use the Rift Herald defensively, by which I mean just spawn it in mid lane with a push and get 2 platings. That's fine. A lot of people forget that Rift Herald was actually buffed a lot on spawn. You get 300 gold from just taking Rift Herald. So just taking Herald and getting the 2 plates for free means a 600 gold swing. You usually trade it against First Dragon, but that's still a lot of gold for your jungler. So if you play something like Wukong, who really wants to go to 2 items, be a strong team fighter, this is a huge gold inducement. So I actually think just taking Rift Herald and taking the free plates is already quite a big win.
You hear me? Hello?
Yeah, apparently you had a little bit of lag, but I think you're back now.
I had a power surge.
Oh.
Oh dear. Give me a moment. I just need to... half of my electronics have just blown up. I need to fix that. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Well, there's not much going on, so we don't really need to play with Playcaster right now. Kiaya just freezing his wave in the same spot for the whole game, and Nagia trying to get an advantage. He has a little of CS lead, but yeah, he should be able to get away. Or is he? Oh, that was a horrible flash.
Levi arriving. Dominus is burnt just for a little bit more health. It's not going to be enough. They need to land this last little bit of damage. A good heal, but Levi gets the kill.
He tried to get away, but there was a Nautilus parked already in the bush. Poor Nagia, but really bad flash from his side. He wasn't able to flash the on ultimate, and that was detrimental, because then it was just smooth sailing to get the kill. A second kill for GAM, still playing a very controlled and slow style, but just getting incremental advantages. And we're looking at a 1k gold lead with Vi, Ornn, and Sivir, plus Rice even composition, so everything going very, very nicely.
We have a bit of a scrap breaking out in the jungle. Stolen Realm Warp will get glory to the fight. That Renata ultimate's not going to go far enough. B with a stopwatch, keeping himself safe. Cardi now wants to move forward to a very low glory, but has support of his team. A good handshake stops the counterpunch.
Finally, CBL able to respond to some of B's movement and saving his mid laner here. But once again, Team Wales fails to get the kill and the job done. Well, that was just a really, really bad flash from Nagia. Not much to say. I think if he flashes correctly, he might have a chance to escape, because then the enemy team needs to chase into his tower. He's probably still dead, but yeah, you shouldn't fail that flash against the on ultimate. That's literally the only thing he ever does to you. But we're once again looking at a game that is slowly and incrementally going more and more in favor of GAM. And Carti, with the Rice in the mid lane, went for a little bit of a protective build with the Crown instead of a more aggressive, more CC-focused approach. So he's really hard to kill. We have really hard to kill topside in general, and the Sivir. So yeah, who do you even attack in teamfights? Who do you even look for your first kill here? It's just a very, very hard nut to crack, this GAM composition.
It's very true. I do want to look over, like sort of zoom out and not so much look at the game, because it is a bit of a slow one. This is, of course, as our analysts pointed out, a very important week for playoff decisions. At the moment, there are quite a few teams still in contention. And Yue, I want to ask you 2 questions. What is your dream top 4? And what do you think the most likely top 4 is?
So I would like to see Wales instead of SPTC. What is going on with the Dragon Pit? That's very irritating.
Good question.
As Levi's and a little bit of pressure. There's Vi ultimate, double Vi ult.
A stolen Vault Breaker into the Cyclone. Can they actually get this done? Killer Queen is so low. I don't know if he should have flashed that wall. Triumph healing him up. Got a bailout on top of him as well. And Team Wales will pick themselves up 2 kills. On the other side, Ariete, he's got the lightning rolling.
Style!
He's got the boomerangs. Flashes over and takes him down.
That was really stylish from Style, kind of salvaging the situation for GAM. They still get the dragon, but for the first time today, they get sucked into the little bit of VCS genes that are still there. They just can't resist the fight when they see it. And Killer Queen and Lori are finally able to bait the GAM duo into a fight. And this time they out-execute. So 2 kills finally secured by Team Wales mid-jungle. Let's look at this again. Lori, it's a really cool combination of ultimates because it's really hard for Kati to do anything, as you can see. He's just on the outskirts of the fight, trying to get his damage in, but going for crown and no finished here. He just doesn't have the damage here. And yeah, right, he can style. This is super stylish. A style lashes over the flash looked more cooler than it was actually. Yeah, I think he probably had the kill anyway, but really nicely done from style. And with that, that's another pressure point for the GAM composition. Close to 2 items now for the Sivir, close to level 11 too. So everything's still going in their favor. But this could be a little bit of a point of contention with the coaches where they just look at this again and say, there was really no need to fight. Just next time, don't go for the fight. Just play it safely. Just don't risk it. Over to Wales.
I have to ask you, how does seeing an Ornn sitting in a side lane at level 11 make you feel?
It is so good to see. Of course, GAM is the team that understands how Ornn works. So many VCS teams group their Ornn at level 11 and level 12 and then lose the game and like, Ornn is a pretty bad champion. Yeah, well, before level 14 he is. But, of course, GAM, the last time they played it, they already did this. Kiaya sat in the side lane, waited, and there's absolutely no reason to group right now. There's nothing to fight for, so just park him in the side lane, give him some levels, give him some Ornn items, because then the champ is actually quite decent.
It's very true. And yeah, Kiaya happy taking this 1v1. Looking in at the Renekton, obviously a pick that always gets a lot of heated discussion around it. Nagia, I think, is actually doing quite well. I think point-and-click CC against his competition is also, against his competition from GAM, to be clear, is still valuable. So this Renekton, I think, still has a lot of time to shine.
Yeah, with Renekton, we definitely see a little bit of a shift of ever since Blade got introduced back into his the items he wants to build. He's just not that early game focused anymore. He's just a strong team fighter in general. And here we go. Oh,
going in. They just about catch onto Ariete. Gets over the wall, gets bailed out, but that business is not too big to fail.
Oh, Kati, a little bit of a counterpunch.
Kati and Glory having a bit of a scrap, but that's not the ultimate you want to steal in a 1v1.
Yeah, also, Glory very low on mana. He might run out of mana. That would be very unfortunate. First tower of the game, by the way. Falls at 17 minutes. And now suddenly GAM very quickly moving in to really get a huge advantage. Killer Queen. Careful there.
Killer Queen has to be careful, but does have that W. Keeps himself nice and safe. And they do manage to stop the second tower going down, though it does take a lot of damage. Silas will teleport back to the bot lane, prevent Kati getting much time. He's actually going to try and chase onto him. He takes the realm.
No!
What?
That timing! That hook actually hit him. He would have been able to escape, but the hook... That was the disgusting lollipop, and I would be quite angry if I were righty. Nothing happened in bot lane, so good job, observers. You gambled correctly this time. But Kerrix, tell me. We've been casting countless games of this league, and of GAM specifically, of the Kiaya Levi duo. But tell me, is this the first time in history that GAM has been... well, not even close to contention for most aggressive team in the league? They look so transformed, so disciplined. I can't. This can't even be GAM in my book anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this was the team that we had a joke in previous splits about how once it goes past 26 minutes, Levi starts getting angry because, you know, he only has to play for 26 minutes. That's just not them anymore. They're restrained. They know that they can play a long game. They've got better team fighting. They've got better macro than the rest of the league. And it's very, very different to see. But again, looking forward, because we do think GAM will be one of the representatives at Worlds. You know, we've got 2 slots. I think we can. We're all pretty comfortable saying they'll make the final. That's a good thing to see, because going for that all-out aggression against the LPL teams that are just better than you mechanically, yeah, have fun, guys.
We have a very important situation brewing here. We have double on ultimate ready, and this is Drake number 3. Last chance saloon.
Hook goes in onto Nagia, rams flying everywhere, none of them redirected. First kill will go over to Glory. Now I've got my eyes on Arietti trying to get something done here. He's dealing a lot of damage. It's actually Killer Queen that's carrying it at the moment. Kiaya charging forward, doesn't land anything. Arietti continues to fire. Kiaya, last man standing. GAM have been wiped.
Beautiful team fighting from Wales, and they just grouped up perfectly, and the double on ultimate was very confusing to follow. Too much going on my screen. I wasn't exactly sure who was firing what ultimate. It was definitely the better one from the Silas. Let's look at this again. Nagia just buying a lot of time and spotting the enemy team, which is huge because Lori now knows where everyone is, and look at this ultimate. That was a huge combo with Killer Queen going in as well, and then just not enough damage to follow up. The Sivir isolated early on, killed early on, while Ariety is free firing. Really nice dodge there on the very slow moving on as well. And that's a huge little swing from Team Wales. They get the dragon, they get the team fight, and suddenly the game is super close. We have a 200 gold shutdown on Ariety. We talked about Zeri, and suddenly Killer Queen is also a huge threat in team fights. So GAM is not quite over the line here in this game. They actually need to put in a good performance against one of the other trending teams, because Wales, in the last few weeks, have actually been one of the best teams in the league. So GAM, they need to play discipline for the rest of the game to actually get over the line here.
And frankly, two of the people that have been a huge part of the Team Wales glow-up has been a returning to form Killer Queen and also Nagia. Nagia has been someone we have criticized for quite a long time throughout their career. As, you know, at best, he was just an okay top laner. And at times, he was a bad top laner. But the last few weeks for Team Wales, where did this come from?
Yeah, everyone's just stepping up, and now the Killer Queen, because for some time, Nagia and Riot were stepping up, but then Killer Queen and Lori weren't quite as strong as in the early parts of the season. But now Killer Queen is back in form, 3-0-4 now. Very, very strong Wukong, close to 2 items, where he can actually threaten almost like solo kill style plays in the team fights. Well, suddenly you have a super strong combination of members, and their team fighting has only been getting better, especially with the Zeri composition. So Team Wales, a serious contender out of nowhere.
They really are, and you know, this leads us to potentially not just having an incredibly interesting regular split, but an incredibly interesting playoffs as well. We have a good playoffs format. We have double elim. Worlds take notes. But overall, Team Wales, they're on a huge run of form. Team Secret, they still need to sort of prove themselves as a number 1 or number 2 team. Saigon Buffalo have a lot to fight for as well. Overall, every team in playoffs is so interesting to watch.
And we're still very far away from it. GAM is still in a good position here to win this game. But if Wales were to win today's series against GAM, they would actually put a lot of pressure on the other teams. They have a very good head-to-head with some of the other players' teams, and 8 wins is usually enough to get there. SPTC, remember, they still have to play Secret tomorrow, so it's very likely SPTC can't go to 8 wins, while for SGB it's easier because they play AS Esports later today. But even AS Esports on a tiny run of form, so Wales winning against GAM would give them that one free serious victory over all of the other contenders, and suddenly not only put them into playoffs, but also put them into the discussion for Worlds, honestly.
And wouldn't that be a success story if Wales made it all that way to the World Championships? Because this is a team that was sort of born from the ashes of several other teams, but of course we're a long way from that, as you said. So we'll have to come back to it if they can take game 1. They're currently 2,000 gold behind. Ooh, Glory moving in. Cardi does land the chains, has a stolen Ornhorn, redirects it, needs to find another Kingslayer quick smart. He goes gold. He just loses the 1v1.
Oh, and on the other side, the game is just...
We have a fight. Yes, the Renekton's already fallen to Levi, charging up the fist. They can just go straight onto Baron. Glory with a really dunderheaded mistake, and we need a replay of to what happened top.
A huge misplay from Wales, just as we were praising them. Maybe a little bit of a caster curse as GAM collapses. B once again finds the first engage. 3-1 now with a full tank item on his Nautilus. It's a confident pick for him. We don't like the Nautilus, but B is allowed to play it. It actually started with just a catch on Killer Queen. Levi gets the ultimate on him, and then it's just too much CC. Look at all this. Nagia, ill-advised to help his jungler. Should have really just ran away, but...
Save your friend syndrome.
Yeah, never help. Rule number 1 in League, never help, because it always just leads to more people dying. Every time I tell this to my friends when we play together, they look at me, or they react very suspiciously, I guess, but it's true. You should really... There are very few situations where helping people is actually gonna be beneficial for your team. Now suddenly, third dragon coming up for GAM. They secured the Baron, and look at the gold lead, look at the items coming in. Ooh, it's looking really rough now for Wales. And just a minute ago, we were talking about their chances to win this series, and now GAM strikes again. They're just so consistently excellent in these mid-game, late-game situations. Always find a way back into the game. They lost one team fight today, but might all they lose.
Yeah, well, Yulei, I'm glad that's the message you're passing on. Remember, kids, don't help people. As Style pushes down this bottom wave. Glory is hiding in a bush, but they suss him out. He has to come out as well. And I mean, I think that was kind of the epitome of a caster curse, because all of the things we were saying about how Wales were in this game, I've kind of gone up in smoke.
Yeah, and I want to spend like 1 minute talking about the Silas Rice matchup, because we saw a few confused reactions, or at least maybe not quite enthusiastic reactions to the Rice pick, but to me, Rice right now is basically just a Silas counter pick. If you see Silas, you pick Rice, it does well in the 1v1 as we just saw. He just has more DPS than the Silas. He can also play the laning phase pretty aggressively into the Silas, always a good matchup. But here we have the last-ditch effort. Teleport into the fight.
Oh, but Killer Queen has just been collapsed upon. He can't get out, uses that Cyclone, has a bailout to buy a little bit more time, but down he goes. Nagia diving in the backside, just gets absolutely melted. It's a disconnected fight here from Team Wales. Ariete, you have the entire world on your shoulders, but it doesn't matter because Vi's got some damn big fists. They bring it in. The Silas has gone down on the other side of the fight. CBL will be allowed to limp away.
Or will he?
But it is GAM that well, Levi, don't be a dick. As he will take him down. Confirm the ace, and GAM will take game 1 over Team Wales.
Devastating team fight for GAM, 5-0, and just 5 minutes ago it looked like an even game, and suddenly the game is over. This is GAM, this is the new dominance they found, 1-0 up against Wales. A very good effort, definitely better than anything that Secret tried yesterday from the side of Wales, but still not